Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 277 Pena versus Nunes. It was a nice card. It was okay. It was fun to watch. I was excited. But I'm not here for that. I mean, I'll talk about something at the end, but nothing crazy. The card was fine. There are no injustices. There are some close fights, a couple of them, but no one got robbed or anything. Just a lot of honorable mentions, a lot of weird scorecards that need to be talked about. And we'll just go with the first one. We'll just start off with it. Cosy versus Diamond. I had this scored 29-28 for Blood Diamond. I had a 10-9 in the first and the second for Diamond, and then a 10-9 in the third for Cosy. I put a close marker on the first round. I think you can kind of argue it in either direction, but that's how I scored it. In that first round, okay, Cosy had 2 takedowns. I don't believe he did anything significant with those takedowns. The first one was just a regular routine takedown, and then the second one was like a suplex, a belly-to-back suplex. Is it belly to back? Yeah, belly to back suplex. Other than that, Diamond had outstruck him in that round, so I gave him that round. The reason why I put a close marker is because I was insecure and I didn't want to stand on it. But I think the other reason why I put a close marker on it is, I guess you could say that with those 2 takedowns, he won in the sense that he wasn't fully outstruck on the feet. So that's why I put the close one. But if I'm being honest, I think Blood Diamond won that round. Is it convincing? No, but I think you can argue it in the other direction. That was in that first round. In the second round, Diamond outstruck Cosy. That was 100% clear. He outstruck him in that round. He didn't get taken down. Boom. And then the third round, Cosy had 2 takedowns with ground and pound for about 2+ minutes. So, honestly, I think you can give it to either person, 29-28 in either direction. I scored it for Diamond, and I could most likely be wrong here, but that's just that. We go to the scorecards where all 3 judges, Dan Matheson, Seth Fuller, Kent Bassinger, had it 29-28 for Cosy. So they gave him the first and the third. Next honorable mention. The next honorable mention. This fight ended in a split D. I was actually confused on how it ended in a split D, but that's fine. It's Edwards versus Kim. I had this a 29-28. I gave Edwards a 10-9 in the first and the third. In the first round, Edwards outstruck Kim, mostly leg kicks. This is a common thing. If you look back in the last Edwards fight, the same thing Edwards did to Pascal, it pretty much happened here. Edwards won that first round. Crap, I'm all over the place. Give me a second. She outstruck Kim, mostly leg kicks in that first round. Second round, Kim had outstruck Edwards. Now, I understand the strike numbers showed, and they showed that Kim was outstruck in that third. I think when I look at those strike numbers, I think they're mostly counting a lot of Edwards' leg strikes. But in that second round, Kim wins it primarily off of outstriking her via head strikes. She had the most head strikes in there. I know she was probably getting outstruck in total in that second round, but she was headhunting more and she landed more head strikes, thus giving her that round. This is common, right? There's one person. In most MMA rounds, because this isn't kickboxing, we value the hands more than the feet. So there's that. Round 3, Edwards outstruck Kim and got a takedown. Thus, it's her round. We go to the judges' scorecards. Okay, Seth Fuller had it 30-27. I'm not going to give him an honorable mention because, again, technically she outstruck her. Technically, she did in that second round. But I don't like that second round scorecard. Seth Fuller had a 30-27 for Edwards. Kent Bassinger had it 29-28. His scorecard reflects mine. And then Steve Armstrong has it 29-28 29-28 for Kim. He gave a 10-9 in the first and the second for Kim. Honorable mention to him, that first round did not, no. We've scored rounds like this before where the leg kicks just supersede whatever very few hand strikes you threw. And so that's an honorable mention there for Steve Armstrong. Next honorable mention. God, the fights really took me out. I'm sorry if I'm lagging right now. The fight. Okay. We go to one that kind of confused me when I saw these scorecards later on. This is Morales versus Fugit. I had this. I gave this fight ended in a TKO in the third round for Morales, but I had a 10-9 in the first and the second for Morales. In that first round, in that very first round, Fugit had a takedown, but Morales had outstruck Fugit. Fugit did nothing with the takedown of significance, and Morales had outstruck him on the feet. It's his round. It's Morales' round. And then the second round, Morales had outstruck Fugit. That's pretty simple. I didn't think I'd have to go crazy, but the scorecards read different. Aaron Menard had it 10-9 in the first and the second for Morales. And then Dan Matheson and Seth Fuller both gave the first round to Fugit and the second round to Morales. Again, I don't know what the first round hubbub was all about. I understood that Morales got taken down, but he did, again, Fugit did nothing of significance with that takedown, thus I don't believe he won the round. Honorable mention there to Dan and Seth on that round. In no agreement at all. We go to the next one. Okay, we go to one that was very close. Ha ha ha. Klose versus Garcia. I had this 29-28 for Klose. I think that first one was very close. I put a close marker on that one. I gave it 10-9 to Klose in the first and the third. I keep saying close. In that first round, Garcia outstruck Klose on the feet, but Klose got two takedowns with very little ground and pound. Hence why I put a close marker there. I felt as though Garcia didn't outstrike him heavily on the feet, thus not making him, giving him the round. He outstruck him, but the strikes were fairly close. And then if you look down, Klose had two takedowns with a little bit of ground and pound here and there. So mostly in the first takedown. So that's what gave him that first round. I think you can argue it though for Garcia. You can argue it for him. That's why I put a close marker there. The next two rounds are very clear. In the second round, it was close on the feet, but Garcia had two takedowns with little ground and pound. Klose was slightly active on the bottom, but not active enough to where he could take that round for himself. So there's that. And then in the third round, it was close on the feet again. Garcia had a takedown, but Klose had the more powerful shots in the clinch. Garcia had a takedown. Again, he did nothing with it. And then when they were clinched up, he had the more powerful strikes, the knees, the shots to the body. I know Garcia was throwing shots to the body, but they weren't as powerful and impactful as Klose's shots, thus Klose winning that third round. We go to the scorecards, where Kent Basinger has it 29-28. He reflects my scorecard. Steve Armstrong, 29-28. He reflects my scorecard. And Aaron Menard, 29-28. All three judges reflect my scorecard. Reason why I highlighted this is because that first round was kind of close. So you can kind of, if you wanted to be cute, you could argue a 29-28 for Garcia. Next round, or next honorable mention. God, I'm really sluggish. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Next honorable mention, Mays versus Abdelawab. I'm going to say Abdelawab. When I heard the scorecards for this, I was a little confused. I'm very surprised this was a split decision. It made no sense. I had this 30-27 for Abdelawab. I put a close marker on that second round. I thought the second round was very close. You can kind of argue in either direction. So at the very least, it's a 29-28 for Abdelawab. In that first round, Abdelawab outstruck Mays, and got a takedown with ground and pound. That's his round for sure. Second round, Mays got outstruck Abdelawab, but Abdelawab got a takedown, very little ground and pound to kind of close out the round. That's the round that I think is close. I gave it to Abdelawab. I could, if I'm being honest though, I could probably be wrong in how I scored that. But again, I put a close marker, so you can argue it for Mays. If I were to revise this scorecard, if I'm being honest, I would probably have it 29-28 for Abdelawab. Because though he took him down at the end and gave him a little ground and pound, I don't think it was entirely enough, but I think you can make a case. And then the third round. And then in that third round, Abdelawab had 2 takedowns with ground and pound for essentially the entire round, 4 minutes. And then Mays proceeded to get up and land a few shots on the feet in the closing seconds. No impact on the round whatsoever. Scorecards. Okay, 29-28 for Abdelawab. Dan Matheson scored it for him. Seth Fuller had it 29-28 for Mays. He gave the last 2 rounds to Mays. So honorable mention there for that third round. That third round is nuts. There's no reason you should give him that. And then Kent Basinger had it 29-28 for Abdelawab. Next honorable mention, Dober versus Alves. These are a lot of honorable mentions. Dober versus Alves. This fight ended in a KO for Dober in the third round. But I gave the first round to Alves and the second round to Dober. Okay, in the first round, Alves got a takedown with very little ground and pound for about 2+ minutes, and it was close on the feet. That's obviously Alves' round. And then in the second round, Dober outstruck Alves. I understand that at the very end, he was kind of... Alves had a couple shots at the end and looked kind of nice, but he was outstruck that entire round. So, yes. We go to the judges' scorecards where Steve Armstrong, he reflects my scorecard. Aaron Menard, he gave the first round to Dober and the second round to Dober. Honorable mention, the first round does not go to Dober in any sense of the imagination. And then Dan Matheson, his scorecard reflects mine as well. So honorable mention there to Aaron Menard. That's nonsense. There's no way you give that first round to Dober at all. Next honorable mention, Morono versus Semelsberger. This fight, this fight was a 29-28 for Morono. I gave the first 2 rounds to Morono. The third round I gave to Semelsberger, but I put a close marker there because, this has happened in many fights where you can argue that in that third, I'll read the description, then I'll explain why I put the close marker there. In that first round, Morono outstruck Semelsberger. In the second round, Semelsberger got a takedown, very little shots. Very few shots. I wouldn't even call it ground and pound, hence why I didn't write that. But then Morono outstruck Semelsberger for most of the round, pretty much for the whole round. He outstruck him. Morono outstruck Semelsberger that entire round. Semelsberger got a takedown with little to no ground and pound. It's Morono's round. And then in that third round, Morono gets dropped with like a flying knee to the chest, sort of, to the face. He gets dropped at the very start of the round. Now, here's my reason why I put the close marker there. There's been a lot of rounds in MMA, a couple of them, a lot of them, I'll say some of them, where people get dropped at the start of the round and then proceed to outstrike their way to winning the round. That's happened a couple times. I can't think of any off the top of my head, or else this would make my case, but it doesn't matter because I scored it for Semelsberger. I think, despite him getting outstruck, the strikes were close enough to where he still wins the round because he dropped Moreno in that third round. Hence why I gave him the third round. But again, you can make an argument though for Moreno in that third round. You go to the judges' scorecards. Seth Fuller, his scorecard reflects mine. Steve Armstrong, his scorecard reflects mine. And then Kent Basinger gives all 3 rounds to Morono. I'm not mad at it. Hence why I put the close marker. I'm really not mad at it. Again, you can argue that third round. And there's that. We go to the next honorable... There's so many fucking honorable mentions here, I swear to God. Next honorable mention, Moreno versus Kara-France. This fight ended in a TK on the third round for Moreno. I gave the first 2 rounds to Moreno. These were sneaky close rounds. Not the second, in my opinion, but the first round is what I think is arguably the closest round in this. In that first round, Moreno outstruck Kara-France, but it was very close, and very few strikes were landed, really. You go to the second round, Moreno outstruck France, close on strikes this time. In the first round, very few strikes. Second round, it's close on strikes. But second is obvious that Moreno outstruck France. You go to the scorecards, and they're a little wobbly. So Jacob Montalvo gives the first to he gives the first to Moreno, and gives the second to France. I can't give anyone an honorable mention here because the scorecards are all wobbly, and I think it's because of how close the actual fight was in terms of like stats, maybe not the actual fight, even though that was actually really close. But because of the stats are so close, I can't just say someone is wrong here. He gave the first round to Moreno, gives the second round to France. Doug Crosby gives both rounds. This one, I'm kind of, again, I don't want to say he's wrong, but I'm not. This is, I do have like, a part of me wants to go, he's fucking wrong. Doug Crosby gives the first 2 rounds to Kara-France. In no way am I agreeing with that at all. But I can't give him an honorable mention because these strikes are so fucking close. But in fact, actually, the second round isn't even close enough to where I honorable mention there to Doug Crosby. I don't like the scorecard. And the Saul Diamond reflects my scorecard, so I won't say anything. Then we go to the next honorable mention. The last honorable mention. Pena versus Nunes. This fight ended 50-45 for Nunes. In that first round, Nunes outstruck Pena. It was close on strikes, but it's obvious Nunes outstruck Pena. In the second round, close on strikes, but Nunes dropped Pena 3 times. 3 times. What I should have done after I wrote this, I should have put possible 10-8. I didn't. But now I'll put it, probably it's a possible 10-8. I didn't give a 10-8, but it's a possible 10-8. I'll address that I'll address the 10-8 thing in the end. The third round, Nunes outstruck Pena again. Got a takedown with ground and pound for about 2+ minutes. But Pena was very active on the bottom. There's no need for a 10-8 there. Absolutely no need for a 10-8 there. Very active on the bottom. Then you have the fourth round. Nunes had 3 takedowns with ground and pound for 4+ minutes. You would think someone would throw a 10-8 there because I was in my head. I'm like, no one's throw a 10-8 there. But Pena was very active on the bottom. Multiple submissions, just spamming the S button, just spamming the submission button. And she was throwing strikes on the bottom, so no need for a 10-8 there. And then in the in the fifth round, Nunes had 2 takedowns with ground and pound for about 3+ minutes, but she wasn't as super active as she was in the other rounds where she had the takedowns. Pena was also active on the bottom. Again, no need for a 10-8 there at all. We can read these scorecards really quickly. Jacob Montalvo had a 50-45. His scorecard reflects mine. Douglas Crosby had it 50-43. He gave a 10-8 in the last round and in the second round. I'm fine with him giving it in the second round because the second round is where the drops happen. I'm actually okay with that. The fifth round, I think, is a bit. You're just trying to be cute at that point. So honorable mention there for Douglas Crosby. There's no need for the 10-8 there. And quick note before I get to Saul Diamond. Anik, who I like, big fan of John Anik, at the very end of the show was like, hey, I'm fine with these guys being a little more liberal with 10-8s. The reason why I'm not fine with that is because you can kind of fuck up some scorecards there. You know, there's a lot of scorecards that have been fucked up because of liberal 10-8s, and I'm not. I think I'm fine with it in the second round. The fifth round, you're just being cute. There's actually no need for that. Nunes isn't active enough to where you give her a 10-8 in any sense of the imagination. You start getting liberal 10-8s, you start getting Jacoby versus Kubilava, where we get draws and all this goofy shit because people just want to throw out 10-8s for no reason. So there's that. And then Saul Diamante had it 50-44. He gave a 10-8 in the second round. Again, I'm okay with that. There's no need for a 10-8 in any of the other rounds, minus the second round possibly. And that's it. I'm done. I can go home. Great night of fights. A lot of decisions. A lot of finishes, but some of them not the ones I wanted. The Lewis one wasn't really a finish; it was more of an early stoppage. Everything else was pretty much decisions. Actually, I'm looking at it now again. Maybe it was just the undercard that was heavy decisions. Great night of fights, great atmosphere. I kind of hate the Dallas crowd. I don't think, there's very few crowds in MMA you like and you hate. There's the fun crowds, and then there's I think it's because when I watch the Vegas crowds, they're so used to getting MMA fights. They're so used to getting MMA fights that they compose themselves in a way. And I think they're just more versed. I think with this Dallas crowd, I'm talking out of my ass here, maybe, but they were just like, stand them up. There were a couple of fights here where they were just like, stand them up, and in a couple of cases, they made no sense. Not the stand-ups. I understand the refs are kind of not scared, but forced to stand them up. But the last round of the Mays Abdelawab fight, there's no need to stand him up. You let him sit, and by sit I mean he was active for 4 minutes, and then you stand him up the moment he took a little breather. There was another fight in here. I can't remember. It might have been Morono versus Semelsberger, where I think someone got a takedown and he made him get. I can't remember. I have to find one here. It's insane, and it's not fair. This is the gross thing. This is the thing that's really pinching at me. Is I understand on commentary they were like, hey, if someone ends up in that position, they should stay there. I agree with that in certain cases. If they're working. Most of these cases they were working. In the cases where they went to pick them up, they were just resting. So I get that. But the problem I have here is they didn't do those ground position. They didn't go, hey, in those bottom positions during maybe the earlier fight, right? The Ankalaev V Smith fight. In a couple of these cases, the crowd was very quiet. Okay, and maybe it's because they were working much more than the prelim fighters were in those bottom positions, but still, it's a little inexperiencey and a little goofy for the Dallas crowd to just go, hey, stand them up. They were really quick to just be goofy, stand them up. Woo, the woos were coming out really quickly. There was one part where I saw one phone. I thought multiple flashlights were. It was just one phone, but it's nonsense. They're just inexperienced. But that's all I got, and we'll be back next week. Thank you for listening, and God bless.